Hey everybody, welcome back. Got another awesome video for you. Consider this part 2 of do you need a cleanse? How do I look at my body? How do I feel my body? And realize that it's time to maybe start dumping some toxins, get the crap out of you. So this one is, do you have Candida overgrowth? And let's find out, shall we? Okay. One of the greatest topics of discussion right now is infertility, and that's directly related to the Candida overgrowth in our gut. And while Candida overgrowth may be a huge factor in infertility, it's not the main discussion of this video, although I would like to get into infertility more, and I do believe that I'm going to in the future. But when we're looking at things like Candida overgrowth and infertility or miscarriages or whatever step in which you're having trouble, and zinc is an absolutely critical factor in that. It doesn't matter women or men. I'm going to be talking to just the women in just a moment, but for both of you guys, for all of us, I should say, zinc is an essential micronutrient. It's a trace mineral, and it is absolutely essential to both sides. And so, 3 quick things that you can start eating today in your body. Don't mind her. I love it. So, looks like she's a spider cat. So, 3 things you can eat are dark leafy greens, vegetables. You can start eating more fish, and you can start eating more nuts. And those are 3 things that you can start to really impact your gut health, start to overcome that Candida overgrowth, and to start to express your body in the correct way. And when we're looking at Candida overgrowth and infertility. So although infertility isn't the main topic of this video, it's relative to note that because the increased rise in infertility and the increased amount of discussion and increased amount of people that I'm starting to help with infertility problems, I believe that if we resolve the Candida problem, specifically in the gut, that everything will just start to naturally fall into place. One of the largest responses that I'm starting to receive in return to this conversation, specifically with women, got to turn the conversation to women for a moment, is they say, well, I don't get yeast infections down there, so I don't really have this problem of yeast overgrowth or Candida overgrowth. And my response to that is Candida overgrowth starts in the gut. What you're getting down there is a secondary factor, and that is your body's secondary response and secondary transmission of telling you in your body that there is something else going on. One step further, we got to look into the gut. So, some signs and symptoms that you might be having, that you might be experiencing a Candida overgrowth or yeast overgrowth in the gut. If you have depression, if you have fatigue, if you have headaches, these things that weren't there before, if you're missing the mental clarity, if you're getting the mental fogginess that you feel just wasn't there, if you're more irritable, if we have skin issues. Before I jump to the next one, if you also suffer, women, from polycystic ovarian syndrome, that can also disrupt infertility, which I'm going to be touching on in another video, and that's just worth noting before I move forward. So some other digestive issues, because, right, we're talking about the gut. As I mentioned, I'm just going to touch on these because go check out the other video on my cleansing, is bloating, if you get constipation, if what we call GERD, or indigestion, heartburn, or if you get a lot of gas, if you're burping, farting, flatulence is another word for it. Those are all really indicative that you may be getting or already have a Candida overgrowth inside the gut. So these things cause irritability. Some other things, if you have joint pain, if you have coughing, guys, if you have nasal or sinus congestion and infections, our lungs and our respiratory system, they like warm and they like moist. So specifically, if you're in these conditions, not in the cold, like in Michigan, we have winter seasons. So if you're in places where it's already warm and moist, where our body naturally likes these things, and you're still getting coughs, and you're still getting sinus congestion and infections, that's another huge indicator that it's not just irritability from the weather and that there's something going on internally, right? And we need to start looking inside and learn how to clear those things out of our body to totally reset it. So, bottom line of all these things, and I go on and on and on about these things, but the bottom line is that it takes away from our immune system. When our immune system is focused on healing the Candida overgrowth, it can't be doing what it normally should be doing, protecting the other body systems that we have. So that's why all these things that I just mentioned are secondary to what's going on in the first place, which is the Candida overgrowth. Another thing that I just want to touch on real quick, and I'm going to leave you guys with a cliffhanger because I don't want to get too deep into this video, is, again, I got to talk to the women specifically on this one. We need to talk about the 2 major hormones that are related to women's care, women's infertility, and getting pregnant and having a healthy pregnancy for all 9 months. And those are progesterone and estrogen. And my belief is that we, more times than not, have a overabundance of estrogen when related to Candida problems and gut issues than a decrease in progesterone. Now, more times often, we have an out of sync and out of ratio amount of these, and like I said, in more times than not, it's an overabundance of estrogen instead of the decreased amount of progesterone. And just giving you a cliffhanger for the next one, cortisol, which is released by stress, is directly blocks the production of that progesterone, so that's going to throw off the ratio in one direction. And in the other direction, the yeast, the Candida overgrowth, is an estrogen mimicker, and I'm going to be start touching on these mimickers, and these are things that aren't taught to patients within the hospital. That's why I think that these videos are really important and really gives us an opportunity to elaborate and talk to each other, because being an estrogen mimicker, your body thinks that it's getting enough estrogen within the body, so normal things are going to start going on in the body without it having enough estrogen, right? So because it thinks it has normal amounts, you're also going to get an out of ratio. It's going to be thrown out of proportion. It's going to be thrown out of whack, that proportion of progesterone to estrogen. So that's where I'm going to leave this one for tonight, guys. Both are important. Both I'm going to be touching on in the future, but these are just some quick tips, quick things that you can do to look at to see if you also have Candida overgrowth. And another question to see if you are due for a cleanse. There's some things, some people I've been working with, some people I've been learning from, some ER physicians that have gone on these cleanses because they had allergies and they just thought that their whole life that these are things that they have to treat with Allegra and other over-the-counter medications, or it's just something that they learned to live with. And now that they've learned how to cleanse their body and how to restart those hormones from ground zero again, while protecting the gut, while looking at the gut as its own, it's called a microbiome, while looking at it as its own little world, right? And it really is. I mean, there's 30 feet of it, guys, 30 feet. If we stretched it out, there would be enough surface area to cover a tennis court. Pretty freaking serious. So without that said, I'm going to leave you guys here for the night. Stay safe, protect yourselves, and as always, I will see you on the next one. Good night.